We're outside of the front of the new Somerville High School main entrance. So the large overhang that you see behind me is going to be where students enter into the building. We've reversed the direction of the traffic flow in off of Highland Ave. So you'll be coming in down that side in terms of drop off, in terms of circulation vehicular wise into the building. Comes through here and drops off right in front of the main building. Obviously pedestrians can approach the building from anywhere along. We have a new section of building that we built out into what was formerly the parking lot located in between the high school and the former CTE wing that was on this side, as well as the library. So we've built up 5 stories above grade to that side, and we actually go down another story below that as well. So off to the right-hand side is the former 1929 Gymnasium building that was converted over to the library, the high school library, during the 1986 renovations. That has subsequently been re-renovated now and will be the auditorium when the high school opens. We're currently targeting a date for opening that's going to be around the new year. That's what we're tracking for the building to be complete and occupied. We know that students are not here right now due to remote learning throughout the district over the course of the fall semester. So that's actually allowing the construction team to proceed a little bit more smoothly through this activity. But we should be ready when the winter gets here to allow students to actually use the building, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the construction on the far western side of the site in terms of creating the field and then prepping the 1895 building for a subsequent renovation project after we're done here. We have a full set of COVID-19 sort of response measures and safety measures that are in place here. When workers show up here in the morning, there's actually a trailer that they come check in at. They all get temperature checked. They receive a wristband to make sure that they're feeling okay. If there are any outbreaks that are detected, or if there's any positive cases that are detected, there's a protocol in place also where the entire crew that is impacted for the particular trade stops on that particular day. They all go for rapid testing, and then they're not allowed back on site until they get clear negative test results back. So usually that's a day later in terms of that happening. There have been a couple instances of that, but it has not spread throughout the site. There's added hand washing stations that have been added throughout the building. There's also been some disinfecting, defogging that's done on a regular basis in addition to traditional cleaning. So I think the construction team has been taking really wonderful steps to make sure that we're trying to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the construction process, and we're moving forward still at a very good clip at this point. What we've maintained for this section of the building, the original 1929 Gymnasium, you can see is this far southern block of the building. And so this used to be an entrance when this was the Gymnasium building, but really had fallen into disrepair as part of the recent activities that were ongoing after it had been renovated to become the library. So what you can see going on here right now is restoration work in terms of repairing the cracks, the spalled concrete that's missing along the top of the building, as well as repointing all of the brick. So there's going to be sort of complete restoration of this. We're coating any of the exposed trim pieces with a masonry coating that will provide longevity and consistency in terms of material, and also prevent water from getting into the building in future. While it's certainly come a long way in terms of what's here versus what there is there, this is probably the part of the building that's lagging on the construction side the most, just because there was a lot of renovation work, repair work that had to happen to this building to get it to the point where it is now. So as the building progresses, it will really be from the farther western side, sort of over towards the eastern side here, and then out towards the front of the building in terms of the overall completion status getting done. One of the exciting things about this building becoming the auditorium is the fact that we're going to reopen and re-access the front, really the connection out to Highland Avenue, using this front set of stairs. Now we will provide an accessible entrance. There's an elevator immediately around the corner to get in, to get up into the auditorium. But for events and really to enliven Highland Avenue and activate it during the evenings, this will be lit up. You have the ability to go in there. There's a lobby on the inside. So it really functions in a civic way, in a way that it hasn't probably for the past 30, 40 years. This building was unfortunately one that we did not have existing drawings for as part of the process. So we investigated and explored as much as we could in advance, but no matter how much we ever try to do that, there's always things that we're going to find going through the construction process. So part of what we found on this particular building is that the sidewalls that we'll see as we wrap around, we originally intended to salvage those and repair them much like this front elevation. We found that they were really just in too severe of disrepair. The columns, the steel columns that were in the brick walls had suffered moisture intrusion, and so they had rusted out to a significant degree. So we ended up needing to expose those, repair those, and reinforce those. And then we're actually putting on a new exterior wall on either side that is fully weatherproofed to prevent moisture intrusion in, and will also be sort of fully detailed to hopefully last another 50, 100 years. The large volume that's projecting out up in the air, that is the lecture hall space. So this is a space that has been included as part of the school program to really replicate a type of space that would be found at an Institute of Higher Learning. So a large format seminar room, great for guest speakers coming in, great to bring multiple classes of students together to give them a different type of educational experience from anything that existed previously within the high school. So there's definitely an educational benefit to having that space. Additionally, on top of that, that type of space is really wonderful for community meetings within the city. And that type of environment, while it certainly exists at Tufts, in terms of a public amenity that's really owned by the city and can be shared with the community, nothing like that really exists. So that will be a space that will be lit up at night. It will serve as a lantern, again, on the entirety of the Central Hill campus and the hill. And it will be a space that just receives continuous amounts of use throughout the course of the day, throughout the weekend, for the purposes of community meetings. So having that resource at the building is something that we know that the entire community is really excited about. This entire plaza area out front here is part of the high school construction project. So this will get renovated as part of our project. Beyond that, there's a second project that the city is currently working on, which is the Central Hill Master Plan, which really covers the rest of the campus development, the site development that's out in front of the building, from the concourse all the way to the front of City Hall, as well as the area out in front of the main branch library. So all that will also unfortunately be the subject of a subsequent construction project, so there will be construction continuing to go on here on the hill, but the high school itself and the immediate environment out in front will be completed and will be a nice sort of amenity off of Highland Ave for this section where it exists. So the way that the building is organized on this side, on level 1 off to the right-hand side is mainly administrative spaces. So we have the main office, we have our welcome center, nurse's office, and then the Cambridge Health Alliance Teen Connection space as well is being relocated and replicated here at the new building. But up above that on levels 2 through 5, are all science labs. So we have different disciplines, chemistry, biology, physics on the different floors as we move up. But they all front this, really the front elevation of the school along Highland Avenue. The main entrance to the high school, right as we come in, we step right out into the middle of the cafeteria or the dining common space. So this is very intentional that the cafeteria is not a space that's buried in the basement anymore without any natural windows or connection to the rest of the school. Really what we're trying to do is make this a social heart of the building. So everyone comes in here in the morning, everyone returns here, whether they're coming for breakfast as they're going up to class or whether they're coming back for lunch. We also have many opportunities located around the dining commons for students to gather for project work, be that collaborative work, whether it be classes that are coming down here and sort of setting up camp in one corner of the dining commons or into the other. We also have extended this space, so it's not just this level that we're focused on in terms of providing dining opportunities. There's a balcony that surrounds us all the way around on the second level, and we have seating opportunities up there for students. So students have the ability of choosing a spot within the overall school that's really comfortable for them for dining, whether it's part of a group or whether they just feel like they want their own space for that particular day. So what we're trying to do is really increase opportunity and choice within the building, both here and really at a larger scale throughout the facility. So the proximity when you come also inside the main entrance to the gymnasium is really something that we're also trying to focus on. This was the main location where the entrance was when the atrium was here and when the CTE wing was located in this particular position. So the gymnasium, which has been fully renovated, it's the same gymnasium building, still has that proximity to the main entrance. However, because this is now the main entrance to the school versus for just the CTE wing, we're able to create that direct connection, both for athletic events, but also for community uses of the gymnasium, and the ability to then close off this area so that we don't have to worry about opening the entire school for a gymnasium event is here. So we'll have security grills that can close off one end of the dining commons and another end. And really this use can just focus in on the gymnasium and really using the dining commons as sort of a forecourt or pre-function space that's associated with it. So we'll walk into the gymnasium now. It's pretty dramatic, the transformation that's occurred here. Remembering also that this is the same space that was here initially. And what we've done is really a number of things that you can already see and some things that are coming that are not here yet. So the most significant thing we did here in the gymnasium is actually replace the entirety of the roof structure. So that includes all the joists that you see running across the gymnasium as well as the roof deck itself. This was primarily done so that we can have the potential of supporting photovoltaic panels up on the roof so that we have that solar capability now on top of the gymnasium. And then we get the added benefit of some acoustic performance of the roof deck because we replace the standard roof deck with what we call an acoustic roof deck. So there's perforations up there and then there's insulation above. That really helps with the echoing within the space, and for a sports activity, it has a dramatic benefit in terms of how the space will perform. In addition to the roof deck, we've installed acoustic paneling that you can start to see around the perimeter high up, ring around the space, so that reinforces actually what was located down below. So the CMU block that's located below that ring that goes around the entirety of the gym, that was here previously. And what that is referred to as acoustic block actually, and those slots actually had insulation in them that have been there the entire time that this building has been standing. But for those of you that have been in this gymnasium previously and can remember, that was the only acoustic treatment, and it was really lacking in terms of really handling the types of noises that were going to be generated inside the gym. So from an acoustic perspective, it should be a much more pleasant environment to be here in the gym. We can see that we've installed brand new HVAC systems within the gymnasium. So that's the new ductwork running around, brand new lighting. There's fire protection systems that are in here now. But really probably the most dramatic improvement that we're going to be making is to the flooring that's within the space. So the new floor is not here yet, but it will be predominantly a rubber running track surface that's around for a sort of a true indoor track. We're preserving that functionality of the field house. But in the middle of the gym at the center competition basketball court, we're also putting down a wood parquet floor. So that's going to have the type of resilience to it that was lacking previously, and we know has been a series or a source of trouble for athletes' knees and ankles and ACLs within this entire space. It's just really tough to run on this surface because it's down directly on top of the concrete. So we're adding in some resilient construction of the floor, both to give some additional bounce to the floor, but also to make it a safer playing surface. And maybe lastly, we're increasing the bleacher capacity within the gymnasium. So along the northern wall, we've infilled the lower section of windows that used to come down to the ground, and we're extending the bleacher bank all the way across. The reason for this is that we're actually going to be able to accommodate the entire projected student body for the Somerville High School here in the gymnasium for all school assemblies. So that's about 1,500 plus students that would be on the bleachers. And then we've also installed an enormous projection screen here on the southern wall so that that can pull down, and we can use this really as a presentation environment. Not as acoustically robust as, say, an auditorium or another type of performance venue, but certainly something that's going to be sufficient for the use of the high school and provide an opportunity to get the entire school community here together in one space. So there's a couple different things that are going on inside the red box. So the screen is that black or dark gray element that you see at the bottom. So it drops down out of there down to about the ground. But up above that, you can also see that there's some pieces of ductwork that are running into it. Those ducts actually drop down, and some of them are feeding air down into the dining common space at level 1 and up at level 2. And then we have some exhaust as well. So we're hiding a bunch of things that are in there. It's also going to be the mounting point for some banners, as well as, I think originally we had the scoreboard up high mounted on that, but we shifted it down so it would be a little bit more visible for athletes that are on the main court. There will be a climbing wall, a wood veneered climbing wall that's being put in the background there on the left-hand side. So that will be sort of an added amenity to the athletic and PE capabilities within the gym itself. The payoff when you get to the top is that there's really some amazing views from up here. So unfortunately, the classroom that's done the most is our model classroom that's downstairs in this position on the 3rd floor. But this one at least has most of the flooring in. So you can get a sense of what the typical classroom is going to look like. So what we've tried to do in here is maximize teaching surface. So that includes the whiteboards that stretch along sort of the primary teaching walls, both at the front of the classroom and the back of the classroom. But we've even taken the storage cabinets that are in these classroom spaces. We've surfaced them with a whiteboard surface so that they can be used for instruction. You can write things on the top of them and really have almost every wall within the classroom serve as an instructional surface. There will be an interactive projection system that's installed above the whiteboards that shines right down on the whiteboard itself. It's a low glare type whiteboard. So you can interact with both traditional whiteboard markers as well as the digital projection system. You can see that we do have ceiling fans within the classrooms. And so those are really meant to supplement the air conditioning system. So the air conditioning system that we have in the classrooms and throughout the majority of the building is what we refer to as a green air conditioning system. It uses less energy than a traditional air conditioning system. And that's done by some amount of remixing of the air that's being served from the roof, being conditioned down to the space, and then remixed with some of the air that's within it. So some of the systems that we originally designed obviously are impacted by the current pandemic and sort of what the recommendations are currently for how a room would get used. As one example, the ceiling fans were probably not going to get used until there's a fully safe environment, but there's no requirement to use the fans. They're really here for individual user comfort. And as we can tell walking into the building today, it's extremely comfortable in this particular space on a warm, humid day outside. So we feel very confident that it's going to be a wonderful environment in terms of climate. So this is one of the 3 art rooms that we have. We have a 2D sort of painting drawing room here. We have a computer art room, and then we have a 3D ceramics room that's located just adjacent to us. The nice thing about these art rooms is that the highest level located on this most western side of the building, they're also predominantly facing north. So they get really wonderful light in terms of creation of art. And this room in particular has a very special sort of position within the building. It is sort of the prow of the ship that looks out over Gilman Square. So when you're down out in the city and you look back up at the building, this is what you're looking at up on the 4th floor at the top of the building on this particular position. The language lab is directly below us on the 3rd floor, and these 2 spaces really are the ones that project out towards Gilman Square itself. So the view from out here is really amazing, just given its prominence. You can certainly see to Medford, to Malden, Revere, Everett. It's really a fantastic spot just for creation in general. It's the type of window system that you probably only sort of see in high-end condominiums, that type of space, having this type of glass window looking out. So at certain strategic locations throughout the new building, you'll see that we do have some salvaged artifacts. that were actually pulled off of the C wing. That was the initial piece of demolition that we conducted here on the hill when the project began. So these panels, which you can still see on the A building when you walk down towards City Hall, these are some steel sort of owl relief panels, and so these were salvaged. They were refinished off-site in the metalworker shop, and they were brought back here and installed as part of the finishes. Both these, as well as some of the more intricate pieces of precast concrete and cast stone elements, will be salvaged and are going to be reinstalled throughout the new building to provide that sense of connection to history that we're looking to really engender throughout the entirety of the building. So this is actually the fourth floor of the lecture hall space that we're in right now. It's going to be referred to as the Highlander Forum. And you can see here, even it's a rainy day, just wonderful amount of light coming into this space from outside. We do have shades that we're going to be installing, so if it was a sunny day and we're concerned about glare because we are facing due south, we will have the ability to drop some shades to control that direct light that's entering the room. But you can see here we have tiers of seating that line and go down to the floor, sort of a stadium seating configuration. We will have fixed seats that are installed here with tablet arms. So this room can hold about 100 people total. It will have a built-in fully functioning AV system as well. So this will actually have a fixed projector that's located in the room. A projection screen that drops down at the front in addition to whiteboards. So we really see this space being used for a whole variety of different types of functions. Again, be they educational or community related. It's really going to be a nice amenity for the city. And you can see here also how it provides that connection to the surrounding environment. Additionally, because the space is facing south, you can see on the outside of the building that we do have these sunshade elements that were designed to both articulate the exterior elevation, but also to provide some solar control coming in. So the depth that they are located away from the glass, the depths of the fins themselves, were all designed as part of the overall building project to help really mitigate the amount of direct solar glare that's going to come on into the space. The other interesting thing being down here at this position, you can actually look out and see the 1895 building, the extent of it there. So being able to frame the new building against the existing, again, just reinforces that notion of historical significance, that we are, yes, in a new building, but at the same time, we're also really in the midst of a set of buildings that has been here for a long time and has evolved over the course of history. And really this project is really just a piece of that evolution of the built environment of the Central Hill campus. This is actually the drafting lab space that we're in right now. So this is one of the CTE programs. We have 14 CTE programs that are designed as part of the high school. And we're intentionally located them all throughout the building, both on the western side where we are now as well as the eastern side. The intent is really to try and integrate CTE or vocational education with traditional academic education. No longer do we want a situation where we have a CTE wing of the building where there's vocational students on one side and then we have academic students on the other. Education is integrated at this point, especially at Somerville High School. So creating a facility that really mirrors that and models it in terms of the physical environment was something that was important to the educators from the outset of the project. So looking out the window, we can also see a rooftop courtyard. Right now the roofing membrane is just down there, but there will be occupiable roof pavers that are laid in on top of this. We have some area of planting that's up here as well as some synthetic grass just due to maintenance concerns because we're up above. But this is an exterior environment that will be intended for students to go out into it. We'll have a slate chalkboard that goes up onto the wall, so we have an outdoor classroom that's really up on the roof here, as well as benches and sitting opportunities. So there could be an art class that comes out here. Additionally, we have our medically fragile student program that's located directly below us on the third floor. And so they have access to an exterior environment up on the roof to go out into, which is really part of their educational program, that they have access to that immediate exterior space just from the perspective of health and wellness. And here again, when we think about sort of current conditions of pandemic, having a safe location that's up on the roof and outside, it's a wonderful amenity to have this available as an outdoor classroom space. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of vertical nuance to this building. And there is certainly a ton of complexity to it, but I think we've tried to harness that complexity and provide spaces that really will help knit the entire school environment together. So we're actually located now on the 4th floor overlook within the media center or the library space. So what's unique about this particular library design is that it actually is part of the circulation of the life of the school. So to move from the eastern side of the school, which you see in the background, to the western side, which is where we are now, you really end up passing through the media center on the 3rd floor, which is a very deliberate move in terms of the larger design goals for the project. Because really what we want is to almost force students to sort of pass through the library, to be exposed to that type of environment, and really be part of the life of that space. So it's not a space where we are limited to book stacks anymore. It's really a space that is populated with multiple opportunities for media engagement, for digital engagement, in addition to those more traditional sort of book resources that are there. So what we're trying to do is create a very dynamic environment, not too dissimilar at a basic level from something like an internet cafe type space. We're really trying to bring people together on a social level, as well as provide an educational resource for the entirety of the school. So the same way that the dining commons sort of serves as the heart of the building when you walk in at that 1st and 2nd level and connects everything, the media center library space is doing that at these upper levels and allowing you to pass through on the 4th floor. There's a stair that takes you down and passes through over to the 3rd floor. This is the 4th floor. So on the western side of the building, we have 4 floors above grade. And so on the on the eastern side, we have 5 floors above grade. And then the 1 floor that goes down below continues across the entirety of the school. And that level below is what we refer to as the lower level. That was originally the space where a lot of the CTE shops were located below the gymnasium, but that area was really limited to the footprint of the gymnasium. So what we've done is really expanded it all the way to what will become the athletic field that's going to be built on the northern side of the hill once we tear down the boiler plant for the old building, as well as all the way to the eastern side. So that connection, that notion of connection throughout the building really extends vertically and horizontally all the way throughout. And now, granted, the reality is that we do not have kids in that building at this point, really due to the pandemic more than anything else. And so that is allowing us to consider some improvements to some of the schedule to look at what we call abating, which is removing hazardous materials in advance of the demolition activities occurring. So we are looking to improve the schedule and hopefully turn what is obviously a large challenge for the entire world into a small benefit wherever we can. We certainly have had enough challenges on this project due to the pandemic, but we're always looking for a silver lining. In general, we are down at the lower level, and we have the shops that have a little bit more sort of equipment intensity located down at this level of the building, in particular because we have height requirements that we need to meet from a state educational standpoint for some of these shops, and because the existing shops were down here, that height was really built into the building. So we have a combination of existing shops that we're relocating to the new high school, as well as new programs that will be started up when the new school opens. Some of these new programs include both plumbing and HVAC, so heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So these are trade programs that will prepare students to actually go out and get jobs with those particular trades upon graduation. So the changes that have happened down here are fairly dramatic in terms of the overall organization of the building down here. Again, for those that remember this particular floor of the building, there used to be a driveway that ran along the exterior of the building out along Medford Street. There used to be caged-in openings that protected students from sort of going over the edge of that driveway. But the result was that the shops that were located down here were very dark because they were set back about 20 feet from the edge of the building. So what we've done is actually poured new floor, and occupiable space now extends all the way to that exterior wall. So the natural light that's out there, again, this is a rainy day, and it's still fairly bright within here, but on a nice day, this looks north. So you really get wonderful light coming into the shops, and it really lets these educational environments be commensurate with the rest of the facility that we have here. So some of the other programs that are sort of aligned through this corridor include the carpentry program, the advanced manufacturing program, and then the metal fabrication program. And these are located adjacent to each other very much intentionally, because there's tremendous opportunity for cross-disciplinary collaboration between these particular programs and between the trades out in the real world. Really what we're looking to do with these programs educationally is provide authentic learning experiences. So just as the trades collaborate in real life to build buildings like this, educationally they're going to have the opportunity to cross the borders and the boundaries, to work on a mock-up house that's located down in the plumbing lab, or to work on any other number of projects that involve just different individuals and different materials that they're using. This is the carpentry shop that we're passing through. And the CTE programs are another great example of locations where if we had equipment that was purchased recently, we made every opportunity to relocate that here. So there was an elaborate move coordination process that happens to remove the equipment out of the old building, keep it stored off-site in most cases, and then brought back here. In some cases, we actually relocated equipment from the old building down to the Edgerly building, where a lot of the CTE programs are temporarily housed, and then we'll bring those pieces of equipment back up here. So trying to keep track of all those pieces of equipment is a little bit of a project in and of itself. And so these are actually some of the pieces of existing equipment that came from the original building. These pieces were probably bought maybe 10 years ago, and so they're still in wonderful shape. These are very advanced CNC milling machines for metal. So there was a lot of weight that's involved in terms of shifting them around, as well as the resources, the compressed air that's brought to them, the electricity, just to make sure that they're functional and sort of all within their tolerances. But this was a tremendous grant that was given to the school, really just before we started the project. So it was important to take this resource and shift it in to this new building. The instructors for a lot of these spaces actually had the opportunity to tour the building just a couple days ago, and I think universally they were very excited about what they saw here as an educational resource moving forward, especially as compared to where they were in the existing building, but certainly as compared to the temporary spaces that they're over in Edgerly right now. And then this last shop is the metal fabrication shop. So this is where welding occurs, metal forming of various kinds. So this stairwell that we just came up is one that extends all the way for essentially all 6 levels of the building, all the way from the lower level up to the 5th floor. And because it's right at the main entrance when you come in, this is a stair that will be used by most students on a daily basis as they circulate up anywhere really within the building. So at these first 2 floors, even though this is a fully fire protected stair, we did want to make sure we had a tremendous amount of visibility in and out of the stair, because it's important that the stairs don't feel like they're enclosed sort of vehicles for travel only. Generally, we find that stairs are dark in school buildings. They usually become places where bad things happen. So trying to create as much light within the stair so that they're hospitable environments and connected to the rest of the facility is really something that we strive for in all of our school designs, this building included. So here you can get a sense of the 2nd level of the dining commons space that has seating opportunities for students. There's brackets that are going to have countertops put on them eventually, so that is part of what surrounds the space, as well as bench seating and table seating that we're going to have lining this really wide hallway that's up above. So even from up here, administrators have a wonderful view of everything that's going on within the space. So even though it's at 2 levels, we feel that it is a really great space in terms of just maintaining a sense of sort of order and safety throughout the entirety of the space, because someone can really be up here and have a general vantage point of everything that's going on. The auditorium itself has connectivity to the rest of the school in a few different ways. There's obviously a main door into the auditorium here on this side as well as on the western side. And if there's a community activity going on either in the lecture hall up above or here at the auditorium, that is going to be set up as a community entrance point, so it could be used to access the auditorium. But you can see there's a stair that goes immediately down to the main entrance to the school as well. So anywhere that you are within the building at these first 2 floors, you really have a direct line into the auditorium. So it will allow us to function as a very central space, and hopefully amplifies the use of it beyond just performances, also for community purposes, class purposes within. But within this space, you can see that we've preserved the original gymnasium trusses that were here. These were things that you could see when this space had been renovated into library as well as 1986. What we've done is put a fire protective coating over all those trusses though to bring it up to the level of protection that's required for the larger building. But the condition of them is actually remarkable given the age that they are. They did need some tightening. They needed some bolts to be replaced here and there, but overall that was a piece we were able to salvage very successfully within the overall building. You can see the new walls that were installed on the eastern and western side, as well as the new raised projected piece of the roof that is going to eventually house the return air from the auditorium. So within this space we are building a sloped floor that slopes gradually from the front, which is flat here, towards about 2/3 of the way back, and then we have a set of stadium seats that rises up at the back of the auditorium. So that will sort of provide the capacity of 750 students in here. Then beyond that, where all that ductwork is currently located, will be the lobby that the public is able to use from the exterior, coming up that set of monumental steps from the outside and then directly into the space. The stage is off to our right-hand side, and the stage will be equipped here with a fully functioning rigging system, so that scenes can actually be raised out of the way. We'll have lighting bars as well as curtains. So a stage, a functioning production can occur here, whereas in the previous auditorium environment or the current existing auditorium environment, everything is more of a fixed condition. So the old auditorium is going to be demolished as part of the field construction that's going to happen in phase 3. So the seats that are actually in the old auditorium will be relocated before we tear that building down into this space. So that's been part of the plan. After the hurricane damage to the space, and those seats were replaced about 7 years ago at this point. So those will be brought over there in good condition. But the rest of the building will be torn down to make way for the field. And really what's going to be exposed on the northern side of that 1895 building is something that hasn't been seen for 100 years, but there is detail from when that building was the exterior face, or did have an exterior face facing north, down towards Gilman Square. So that's a piece of that project that's going to get recreated, and really it's a reconstruction of the historical elevation and condition that exists along that side. If you recall, back in I think 2017 is when we tore down the C wing that connected the CTE wing and the library to the rest of the facility. So once we took that building down and really bridged all the services that were moving back and forth in between those two buildings, we were left with this piece down here. So the construction started on that side probably 8 months earlier, maybe 10 months earlier than the phase 2 portion of the building. So it's had a head start, and because of that it's just further along in terms of the construction process. But I would say that the phase 2 side has quickly caught up in terms of speed. One of the things that having a phase project allows us to do is that everything that's built in that first phase is really where all the questions are answered and really the techniques are developed in terms of putting things together. So by the time that the subcontractors actually get to the second phase, they really understand what they're going to be building, and things go together just a little bit more quickly. So this is the space below the original 1929 gymnasium. This was previously the locker rooms that were located down here, as well as the TV studio. So what's going to be down here moving forward is the cosmetology program is going to incorporate a major portion of this floor. And that allows for the public to come in and use that as sort of a retail CTE program. And then we also have the TV broadcast studio that's going to be recreated down there. So this is all part of the space. This would be the studio proper in this area, which I think it may have extended a little bit further beyond there, but it's more or less exactly where it was before. So unfortunately, we couldn't tear down the entire building and build everything up around it. All the concrete flooring that you see here is brand new. We ripped out what was here previously and poured something new down. We were able to reuse the floor structure up above and a lot of the beams and columns. But you can see the diagonal braces that have been added in many locations to give the building some lateral stability that's required by modern structural codes. Looking out in this direction was the previous entrance that led into the Somerville City Cable space. But you used to have to go down a set of steps, both outside and then inside. So you were coming down about 7 feet from the exterior inside the building. And because part of our charge is to create a fully accessible environment, we couldn't have steps leading into the broadcast studio. So what we're doing outside is actually working with a series of tiers that lead you down into the building. So there'll be ramps, there'll be sloped walkways that lead you down in, and you'll be able to come in right at grade into this lobby space and then into the studio eventually. Open space, it's sort of urban plaza space. But this move to take down the ceiling that was here and sort of create this visual corridor that runs through. And this is a guardrail. This line will run all the way down to City Hall, more or less. The field will be down where the boiler room is and where the auditorium is, actually just around the corner from this. So that's why these pieces have to come down to allow that expanse to be created. And there hasn't been a field or sort of an outdoor athletic resource for the community or for the school here at Central Hill since 1986, when the previous building construction started. So it'll really be a welcome amenity to help sort of fill in an outdoor space. Yeah. So it's going to be about the same size as the field over at the Capuano School. So it's not going to be able to handle competition soccer games, which was a regrettable situation, but to be able to do that, we would have had to purchase some type of air rights over the top of the Green Line extension, because that just has its own specific dimensions that can't be sort of massaged.